Shalom, all praise go to the Most High Ho, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ohar Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, Apostle Tahar, Gabar, Rakar, Ramlab, and Shalom to all us say Akem, that push this written sincerity and the truth. And yeah, I have a new channel, and basically this is not a well-known channel of mine, but I decided to make a new channel because I got a strike, my second strike, which means that I wasn't able to make videos for 2 weeks, but instead I decided to just start making videos on this channel so that at least it can make the videos, because this word has to be pushed out. So with no further ado, there's going to be a channel that, I would advise everyone to make multiple channels just in case Esau comes and cuts your shit off, man. Besides that, it's also a wise thing to have your external hard drive with the breakdowns on it, and somewhere where you can actually write them down, man. Because in case this digital stuff doesn't work, at least you have your physical things, physical substances as well. So yeah, I was listening to the. I was actually looking at the news and I saw that Turkey, you know, is actually also going against America. Turkey is going against America with the tariffs, which is basically taxing. That's that's a bold move. Because look, man, eventually more and more and more allies and people that had a lot of influence to concerning the imports and exports to the U.S. are basically cutting off America, man, because they're not correct, you know, and they're leaning more towards the east. Like Turkey, I believe it was not a long time ago, a short time ago, they were buying S-400 missile defense systems from Russia. Meanwhile, they're a UN nation, and they can't get kicked out, and they're also planning on talking to BRICS and all this stuff. So there's basically double-minded, man. Just like back in the days, you know, they converted to Islam because of political reasons, and the other half converted to Judaism, which is their so-called Israeli brothers. They're the same nation, man. So these Turks, they're basically the main enemy of us Israelites, man. Even though they're going against Israel, so-called Israel now, because these Turks, when you speak to them, they don't like Israel, man. They think they're another people, man, but they're the same people. Anyway, man, so I'm gonna read this article. It says Turkey raises tariffs on some U.S. products in response to economic war, which basically is a tax, you know, because they basically devalue the money, and that's the reason America devalued was moving against Turkey economically, and that's how the lira, so-called Turkish lira, um, got devalued for the most part. So it says Ankara has sharply increased tariffs on certain U.S. imports, some of them more than double, in response to Washington's deliberate attack on the Turkish economy amid a widening dispute between the two NATO allies. According to a presidential decree released on Wednesday, the tariffs on goods such as cosmetics, rice, and coal have been raised to 100%, while those on alcoholic drinks, passenger cars, and leaf tobacco have reached 140, 120, and 60% respectively. Turkey's Vice President Fuat Oktay said in a post on his official Twitter account that the new tariffs came within the framework of the reciprocity principle. I believe the reciprocate is when you do something and get something for it in return. But I can also check that out. Um, yeah, in Dutch is wederkerigheid, which is uh, let me look it up in English because reciprocity, because it gives me the Dutch. The practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one country or organization to another. Okay, and here's the Dutch meaning. So it shows you that basically America is not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in return. So what's gonna happen is eventually, if everyone cuts them off, they're gonna be on their own, man, and they're not gonna have any help. And when the price is right, when the so-called agenda, when the so-called greed kicks in for these other nations, they'll rather choose for the money, which is more leaning towards Russia and India and those places, than putting their trust in a sinking ship or keeping their loyalty towards the sinking ship, which is America, man, which doesn't reciprocate, reciprocate, with a fancy word, they don't reciprocate, man, with these nations, man. They do whatever they want to do for themselves, and is basically hurting the economy of these other countries. So eventually they're going to be destroyed for that, man. So I'm not going to read a scripture, but let me read this first. Principle framework of the reciprocity principle. Tax rates on imports of some products have been increased on reciprocal basis against the U.S. administration. So now basically they're giving those same, um, how do you say that? The increase on the tax rates have been reciprocated, which is basically bounced back to America, doing the same as what they doing to you. So, basis against the U.S. administration, the tax rates on imports of some products have been increased on a reciprocal basis against the U.S. administration's deliberate attacks on our economy. Turkish VP Fuat Oktay after Ankara raised tariffs on U.S. cars, rice and some alcohol, tobacco and cosmetic products. Okay, so let's see. Always these cookies so they can track you, man. But anyway, let's play. The announcement comes a day after the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Okay, so basically that was it. Let me read the scripture right here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, bear with me for a minute. mm, Come. So this is Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. there is none understanding in him. Okay, so all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. All these countries that basically were dealing with you, they basically don't want anything to do with you anymore. They're basically kicking you out, man. On a political, economical level, that is, at this point. The men that were at peace with thee, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. So the people that you are okay with, they basically are prevailing, which is actually a word that has a bigger meaning than it sounds. Prevail is to basically be better than, I believe. Prevail. Okay, prove more powerful or superior. Persuade someone to do something. Okay, because they're basically passing America by in a successful way, basically in a way of success, basically. You know, all the men of thy confederacy were at peace with thee, AFCC, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. So the ones that you were doing business with, now they basically set a trap for you, man, because here it is, they had a good agreement with you, but now you feel that you're gonna do whatever you want to do to make America great again, by the expense of your own friends that basically helped you build up what you got, man. But anyway, there's none understanding in him. Gone. So with that, I'm gonna jump to another scripture. But let me continue with the article. It says Ankara and Washington are at odds on multiple fronts, including the Syria policy and Turkey's intent to buy Russian defense systems, which already happened. Relations between the two sides have further soured over Ankara's imprisonment of American pastor Andrew Brunson. Last month, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose large sanctions on Turkey for their long-time detainment of the evangelical Christian pastor, calling for Brunson's immediate release. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to slap large sanctions on Turkey if it fails to free detained American Christian pastor Andrew Brunson. And that's what they think, man. They think that they can get whatever they want, man. If they click with their fingers, things people have to run and do what they want. That's not possible anymore. That was back then when you were dropping atom bombs on countries and threatening them and destroying their countries, but now they have that bomb, man. That's which is a great equalizer. you know so this is Isaiah 48 and 8. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. So the scripture is saying, therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, because America does what he wants wherever he is. He's destroying, pillaging, getting the resources, the good stuff, the fatness of the world, as Duterte would say. They lived off the fatness of the land. They are giving to pleasures, man, because they be stealing, robbing, and murdering everywhere, man. And it seems like they're not getting judged, but their time isn't up yet, but it's starting to get up. It's starting to, how do you say that, to run out. So eventually their destruction, Ratazar will see that, man, in this lifetime, of course. you know and I believe that will definitely happen. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. But that's something else, all right? So basically, they say, I am and none else besides me. So they feel that they're supposed to be the hegemony, the superior one, you know, which they see that all these countries are surpassing them, man. Pastor appeal rejected. Meanwhile, a Turkish court on Wednesday rejected an appeal by the American pastor to be released from house arrest and have his travel ban lifted. The state television TRT reported that the court in the western city of Izmir had ruled that Brunson so, excuse me, Brunson would remain under house arrest. Brunson's lawyer Ismail Sem Halavot lodged the appeal on Tuesday, the second such request in less than a month. Now the defendant's appeal for release has been sent to an upper court. Brunson faces up to 35 years in jail if found guilty. The U.S. Treasury Department on August 1 announced sanctions on Turkish Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu and Justice Minister Abdulhamid Gül, which I believe Gül means flower. On August 10, Trump approved the doubling of steel and aluminum tariffs on Turkey, saying Washington's ties with Ankara were not good at this time. The punitive measures pushed Turkey's currency lira into freefall and rattled the country's financial markets. Press TV US is seeking to stab Turkey in the back, Erdogan. Turkish president had criticized the US for seeking to stab Turkey in the back. Lira jumps after downward spiral. The currency, however, jumped as much as 6.3% to 6.5771 per dollar after Turkey's banking regulation and supervision agency have the limit on lenders swap and swap-like transactions to 25% of shareholder equity. The lira weakened Wednesday morning, trading 0.7% lower at 633,948 per dollar in Istanbul. Erdogan said Turkey is the target of an economic war waged by the US, calling on citizens to exchange foreign currency and gold for the lira. To exchange foreign currency and gold for the lira. It is wrong to dare bring Turkey to its knees through threats over a pastor, Erdogan said. I am calling on those in America again. Shame on you, shame on you. You are exchanging your strategic partner in NATO for a priest, which they say he was a spy, so he probably is, man. Why not, man? They need to start arresting these people, man. Probably been molesting boys anyway. So that's what happens, man. And these Turks are really nationalistic, so he's gonna have a hard time in there, man. Unless they put him alone, of course. On Tuesday, the Turkish president said his country would boycott U.S. electronic goods, including Apple's iPhone. Yeah, man. So I have a scripture over here. So eventually, man, this thing is not only gonna affect the upper class, it's also gonna affect the lower class, which there's where the heavy blows is coming. You have to work hard. Eventually, there's not gonna be any jobs anymore and stuff like that. This is gonna affect a lot of stuff in America. These other countries outside of America are gonna surpass America, man. Which that's actually what the scripture said. Anyway, it says Sirach. No, this is Ecclesiastes, which is in the Bible. Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, the keepers of the house are the ones that are responsible, right? They'll be scared, the leaders. And the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease. So work, the people, the workers. So every how do you say that? Every position in the society is gonna feel it. Bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut. Darkened also means in a state of confusion. They won't know what's happening. Basically, a crisis, but it's going to be worse than a crisis, man. And the door shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Okay, so yeah, man, this thing that's happening with America, man, they're playing games, man. Basically, they know exactly what's happening, man, but they think they're so proud they believe it's still gonna work, man. But anyway, I'm gonna keep it at that. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.